I was preparing coffee when my phone vibrated. It was a video message from Mrs. Langford, our former neighbor. I hadn't heard from her in years, but just seeing her name on my screen stirred up memories I thought I had buried. The message was brief, no salutation, no background, just a single line. "I'm so sorry about your parents. I can't believe what I saw today." My stomach clenched. I tapped on the video. It showed a church I recognized, St. Albans, the same place where they took me for Christmas Eve services when I was young. The camera slowly focused on two figures at the podium, my parents. My mother, clad in black lace and pearls, dabbed at fake tears, while my father stood stiffly, reciting from a paper with trembling hands. Behind them was a casket, and beside it, my photograph in a large frame, surrounded by flowers. I froze. "No," my father's voice resonated through the phone. "She was always a troubled girl, but we loved her. We did everything we could." My vision blurred. He was delivering a eulogy, my obituary. "Though she left this world far too young, we pray her soul finally finds peace." But I wasn't dead. I was in my apartment, alive, breathing, shaking. This couldn't be real. I rewound the video, replaying it over and over. Their expressions didn't alter. Their voices remained steady, devoid of grief. Calm, controlled, performed. I gripped the edge of the kitchen counter, my hands shaking, uncontrollably. "What the hell is going on?" I whispered. Why were they doing this? I hadn't spoken to them in years, not since they disowned me, treating me like a blemish on their reputation. But to hold a funeral, to declare me dead. The more I watched, the colder it felt. My mother spoke of how tragic my accident was, but there was no accident. My father discussed my final years spent in isolation, but I had been working, living, surviving. They knew that, so why this? I sank into a chair, the video still playing. It concluded with a shot of distant relatives, family friends, and even my childhood piano teacher, all present, all dressed in black, believing I was gone. No one had even attempted to reach out. I replayed the video to confirm I wasn't imagining it. But the truth was undeniable. They hadn't just dismissed me, they had buried me alive. And at that moment, one thing became painfully clear. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. It hadn't always been this way. There was a time when I thought family meant protection and loyalty. But that illusion shattered 3 years ago when I was cast out of my own life like trash swept under a rug. The truth was, I hadn't stolen the money. It was Elena, my younger sister, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. She embezzled nearly $80,000 from our family's business account, reckless and addicted to a lifestyle she couldn't sustain. When the numbers didn't add up and the books caught fire, our parents needed a scapegoat, and I was the convenient one. I still remember my mother hissing, "Better one ruined daughter than two," while my father didn't even look at me when he said, "You humiliated us. You're no longer our daughter." The next morning I was gone. No money, no explanations, just silence. I tried calling, texting, and sending letters, but nothing. My number was blocked. When I reached out to close family friends, they suddenly stopped responding. One by one, doors that had always been open slammed shut. I became a ghost, not just to them, but to the entire world that had once known me. Eventually, I did what broken people do. I left. I moved abroad, took a job in a cafe, changed my number, and learned to live quietly. I didn't post online. I barely spoke my name. Yet, deep down, I clung to hope that someday someone would reach out to see if I was okay, to tell me it had all been a mistake. But that day never came. Instead, something worse happened last year. When I tried to renew my old email, it wouldn't go through. When I contacted support, I learned the account had been deactivated due to a report of user death. My name had been marked as deceased in their system. Officially, digitally, completely. They hadn't just disowned me, they had erased me. That night, I couldn't sleep. The video replayed endlessly in my mind. Their voices, their feigned sorrow, my face next to a casket I had never seen. Something was off, so I started digging. First, I called my Aunt Rachel, my mother's older sister. We hadn't spoken in years, but she used to sneak me candy at family reunions. She answered on the second ring. "Hello, Aunt Rachel, it's me, Maya." Silence, then click. She hung up. I called again, blocked. I tried my cousins. One sent me a thumbs up emoji and never replied again. Another asked if this was some sick joke. No one believed I was me, except for one, my youngest cousin, Sam, who always looked up to me as a kid. He texted back, hesitant, "Maya, are you really alive?" "Yes. I need to know the truth. What did they tell everyone?" The typing bubble blinked for a long time before he replied. "They said you died in a car crash overseas 3 years ago." My stomach plummeted. They had created an entire story saying it occurred while I was traveling, that it was too late to bring me home, cremation, closed casket. I nearly dropped my phone. There had never been a car crash. I hadn't even owned a car. While abroad, something snapped within me. I pulled out every document I had: passport stamps, rental records, immigration papers. I had never been in an accident. I had never gone missing. So, I checked the Public Records Office online, and there it was. Maya Dekwa, date of death. July 16th cause, road accident, status, deceased certificate ID ARF 91327. They forged it. They made me legally dead. I stared at the screen, frozen. This wasn't grief or denial. It was a cover-up. But what were they hiding that was worth burying me alive? I should have stopped digging, but once you realize your own family buried, you alive, you need to know why. I found my answer in a place I hadn't looked in years. Elena's Instagram. She had gone public again. And there it was. A glittering carousel of images. White roses, champagne fountains, a diamond the size of a small planet. Elena's wedding. Everyone was there. Aunt Rachel smiling like she hadn't hung up on me, my cousins clinking glasses, even great Uncle Theo, who lived in another country and never showed up for anything. But not me. Not one mention, not one photo, not even a caption saying, "Maya could have been here." I was gone, erased as if I never existed. But then I looked closer. In one of the photos taken at the reception, a speech was in progress, a toast. Her husband stood smiling, and next to him was my father, holding a wine glass, speaking into a microphone, grinning under the caption, "To the one daughter who always made us proud." There it was, the switch, not just forgotten, but replaced. Curiously, I searched the family business registry. A few clicks later, my blood ran cold. The trust fund my grandparents had left for me, college and startup money, everything had been transferred to Elena 6 months after my death, legally and quietly. She didn't mourn me. She profited off me. I stared at her smiling face, her white dress sparkling in the sun, and it hit me. My sister hadn't just replaced me, she had erased me. Enough was enough. If they wanted me dead, they were about to learn just how alive I truly was. The next morning, I walked into a law office with a stack of documents and a fire in my chest. Passport stamps, employment contracts, tax filings, lease agreements, flight records, proof, unshakable, unforgivable. The young attorney across the desk looked stunned. "You're challenging your own death?" I slid the forged certificate across the table. "I'm not dead, but I plan to haunt them." He blinked, nodding slowly. "Then we'll start with a fraud complaint and a motion to revoke the declaration of death. It'll take time." "But legally, I don't have time," I interrupted, "because apparently I have a memorial this Sunday." He looked up, startled. Earlier that day, a message had come through from an unknown number. Just one line. "They're holding a memorial for you next Sunday at St. Albans." No name, no explanation. But I recognized the church. I knew the address. It was real. And so was my plan. That night, I stood at the window of my apartment, the city lights glimmering below me like sparks waiting for gasoline. They had dressed me in lies, buried me in silence, pretended I had never existed. But now I had a stage. Let them grieve, let them cry, let them perform. And when the curtain lifted, let's give them a funeral to remember. St. Albans had never looked so full. Cars lined the street like a parade of grief. The heavy doors of the church stood open just long enough for mourners dressed in black to enter, weeping, whispering, hugging one another as if tragedy had touched them personally. I watched from across the street, clad in a black coat and sunglasses, still invisible. It felt surreal, like watching a play about a character who resembled me, sounded like me, but wasn't me at all. Inside, the performance had commenced. The organ played something slow and tragic. Candles flickered beneath my photo, the same one they used for the fake obituary. I remembered that day. I was genuinely smiling back then. My father stood at the pulpit, face solemn, voice just loud enough to carry. She was troubled, but we loved her. She lost her way, and though we couldn't reach her, we never stopped praying she'd come back to us. My mother sat in the front row, dabbing tears with lace-trimmed tissues, as if she had practiced for weeks. Her sobs were delicate and perfect, and Elena stood nearby, pearls clutched tightly as if they were keeping her heart from breaking. My sister Maya was complicated, but she was mine. I wish I could have said goodbye. A lie wrapped in tears, tied with a bow. I edged closer to the door, just enough to hear it. The priest raised his hand solemnly. May she rest in peace. I exhaled slowly. Not yet. The show was still ongoing, but the main character hadn't arrived. Let us now stand for a moment of silence. The priest's voice echoed through the church like a final curtain call. Everyone rose to their feet, heads bowed, eyes closed, hands folded politely over their hearts. In that breathless pause, I pushed open the doors. The sound was sharp and deliberate. 2 heavy oak doors creaking open like a tomb splitting in half. The cold light from outside flooded the church, spilling down the aisle like a spotlight. I stepped into it slowly, deliberately. Each heel strike on the marble floor echoed like a gunshot. Click, click, click. The silence cracked open. Gasps erupted. A few people turned, then more. Whispers spread like wildfire. Is that... It can't be. A child's voice pierced the tension. Mum, isn't that her? I removed my sunglasses, and eyes met mine. Wide, disbelieving, terrified. My mother's face turned pale. Her lips quivered, then she crumpled. A dramatic faint, her body dropping as if she had rehearsed it. My father's mouth hung open, a wine glass slipping from his fingers, shattering against the pew. Elena locked eyes with me and froze, her jaw clenched, her pearl necklace twisting in her grip. A half-full glass of champagne tumbled from her hand, splashing across her pristine white shoes. The priest, taken aback, took a step back. I kept walking, every eye in the building following me, uncertain if they were witnessing a ghost or a reckoning, and perhaps I was both. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. My presence was the thunder after the lie, the consequence they hoped would never come. By the time I reached the front of the aisle, the room was holding its breath. I turned to face them all and smiled. Let the truth begin. I stood at the front of the church, beneath my own portrait, the same photo they used to eulogize me, to bury me. I faced the crowd, dozens of eyes staring at me as if I had risen from the grave. Good, let them look. I cleared my throat once and spoke into the silence. I heard I died, but I'm here to correct the story. A ripple moved through the room. No one stirred. Some had phones in hand, but forgot to blink, let alone record. There was no accident, no tragic car crash overseas, no closed casket because the body was unrecognizable. I pulled a folder from my coat, thick, stamped, sealed with government marks and international dates. These are my passport stamps, my employment records, tax filings, apartment leases. I've been alive. I've been working. I've been surviving. The only thing I lost was them. I turned to my parents. They told the world I died, faked the documents, filed a certificate. And when I was legally gone, I turned my gaze to Eleanor, who stood frozen, her fingers clenched around her pearls. They transferred everything to her. My trust fund, my inheritance, my life. Elena opened her mouth, trying to speak, but I didn't let her. Don't enjoy the house you bought with my money. A murmur rose behind me, like thunder. Someone whispered, "She's got proof." Another gasped, and then a phone lifted, the red dot blinking. Someone was filming. Good, let the world see this. Funeral for what it truly was. Not a farewell, but a cover-up. You didn't lose a daughter, I said, staring my father down. You threw her away, and now you get to watch her walk back in. The lies turned to ashes, and I had just lit the match. I turned back one last time. My father's face was pale, my mother still trembling in her seat, and Elena looked hollow and defeated. No pearls to clutch now. You buried me to protect yourselves, I said calmly. But I came back to haunt you with the truth. No more shouting, no more lies, just silence. Heavy, final. As I walked out, the church bells began to ring. How fitting, a funeral bell, but this time, not for me. Montage. I handed the documents to my lawyer, signed the final page, and watched the death certificate get torn in half. My legal resurrection was official. An investigation opened into fraud, false, reporting, and embezzlement. Let them try to lie now. Sometimes you have to die in their world to be reborn in your own. This time, I wasn't coming back for forgiveness. I was coming back for freedom.